chances are when you went to buy your RV, you went through that pre-delivery inspection with the dealer and they thoroughly went through everything and you thought, yeah, I got this. So they're kicking you out, putting you into the finance office, signing all that paperwork, and they send you on your way. You're all excited, and then you get to your campsite and you're like, what the heck do I do now? There was like a million steps, it seemed like. Well, we're going to make that easy for you today. We're going to go step by step on how to set up your trailer. We were newbies before, and we try to treat it like we're a newbie every time because you can easily make a mistake. So we made a nice little checklist right here. You can go into the description, click the link. It will take you to our website at pursuingoneday.com/checklist. We'll have it there. You don't have to go in and give us your email address or sign up for a newsletter or anything. We have that right there for you. Click the link, download, print it, keep it with you. It will be a great resource to have. So let's get to it. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you get to a campsite is you want to check your electrical panel, because if you get to your campsite, you get all set up, and then one of the last things you do is you hook in your electrical and your pedestal is not working. That's not going to be good. You're going to be frustrated, and then you're going to have to get everything put back up and move to a different site. So let's check the pedestal first. When you're checking these pedestals, for example, we have a 30 amp. You want to make sure the breaker's off. Go ahead and plug your surge protector in. Flip that breaker up. And here we're showing power on. We have all green, so the pedestal's in good shape. So we're good to go. So we'll go ahead, turn the breaker off, and then we'll plug this in just a little bit. Okay, next, so before we level the trailer, you want to make sure you have enough space for your slides to come out. So it's a good idea to know the width of your slides. You never know when you get to a site, you might have a tree, or in some sites, the electrical pedestal will be right in the middle. So you want to make sure there's enough clearance for your slides. We know the width of ours. We have plenty of room here, no obstructions, so we're good to go. So let's move on to leveling the trailer side to side. Okay, so your next step you want to do is you want to level your trailer side to side. And there's a couple options. If you're at a site that's not level, which is going to be more likely than not, we're on a pretty flat concrete pad, but it's just a little bit off. And if you're like Sarah here, who if it's barely off, then she's not going to sleep well, then we need to put some leveling blocks. So you have two options. You've got these what look like big Lego blocks, or you've got the big Anderson levelers. I would recommend using these Anderson levelers whenever you're at a site that is very unlevel and you need to go up high. But in this instance, where we just need to barely go up to get it level, we'll just use a block here on each tire. So let's go put these on, and then we'll move up on them and see if we're level. All right, so the next step is chocking your wheels. This is the most important step because the last thing you want to do is unhook from your trailer. You have nothing in front of these wheels, and then your trailer takes off on you. That can be catastrophic. So I've got two types of chocks. So you got these plastic ones or these rubber ones. I highly prefer these rubber ones. These plastic ones, they're brittle, they can crack, they're just not as stable. These rubber ones are about $7, $8 at Harbor Freight, and they're great. They will last you for a very, very long time. I'll put a link in the description of where to get these. So even though we're up on blocks, you can still chock these wheels. Yes, we do have the other wheels chocked, but I would highly recommend going ahead and putting these on as well. So we'll put one in the front and one in the back. Okay, next, we're ready to unhook from the truck. All right, now that we have unhooked the trailer from the truck, now we're going to level front to back. Now that we're level, both side to side and front to back, it's time to hook up the power. So just like before, make sure the breaker's off, turn it on. I'm gonna check one more time. Everything's green, good to go. Turn that back off. We'll get plugged into the rig. I'll come back to the pedestal and turn that breaker back on. Now we've got power. Okay, for the next step, we're gonna get out our sewer hose, get that hooked up to the exterior valves. I would recommend going ahead and getting this done because likely if you have slides, they're gonna come out over the sewer hose. So it's best to just go ahead and get that done now rather than putting your slide out and then crawling under the slide to get your sewer hoses hooked up. So let's get that taken care of. All right, so we've got our sewer hose hooked up. We've got our stinky slink support. Just be advised, there are some campgrounds that require that you have a stinky slink support. So it's always good to have one of those as well. And then we've got our elbow connector going into the sewer. And then I have a Y connector. Where this helps out is that we have two different exterior valves. That way I don't have to move one hose to the other when I'm emptying. So it just makes it more convenient. So now we're gonna get the other hose hooked up to the other side of the Y connector. So while I'm hooking up this second hose, I wanted to talk about this Valterra gate valve that I have. It's a secondary safety element here. That way, if you have an issue with your tank, if your valve is slightly open or you have a leak, having this secondary device as a safety mechanism is great because you know it's shut and you're not gonna have mess going everywhere or a poopsie or whatever you want to call it. So these are great. I'll put a link in the description on where to get these. I highly recommend everyone getting one of these. That way you have a secondary safety valve. All right, so now we have our sewer hoses put in. It's time to put the slide out.
Are you ready?
Yep. All right, now that we've got our slides out, it's time to put the stabilizers down. We've got the manual stabilizers. You can use this hand crank or you can use a socket. We don't have the socket, we just use the hand crank. I look at it as you can get you a little exercise while you're doing it. If you use the socket, just make sure not to go down too much because these are just a stabilizer, not to level or anything else with your RV. So you just want to get them down just enough to where the metal piece is on either the concrete or we use these 2x4s. I would recommend just getting something to put your stabilizers on rather than just metal on concrete. Now that we've made contact, I'm gonna give it one more turn where I can feel it have just a little bit of give and we're good to go. Now that we have our stabilizers down, it's time to hook up the city water. First, you want to have your water pressure regulator. Put that on first. But before that, always run your water a little bit. You never know how long it's been since somebody's been at this site. Sometimes I've seen like some yellow water come out, and that's typically if we come out and we're de-winterizing and it hasn't been used all winter. So you want to get the water pressure regulator. This is an inline regulator. So it's a 50 to 55 PSI. So for RVs, you want to get somewhere between 40 to 60 PSI. So we'll get this hooked on first. Then I highly suggest getting a water filter. This is one of the Camco Taste Pures. You can get these on Amazon or pretty much any big box store. Always good to have a water filter. So we'll hook that in. I'll run a little bit of water here to run through the filter in case there's any carbon or black particulates that need to come out. We look good there. Next, we'll hook up our hose into it. We've got one of these 0G hoses. They're so nice, they don't kink. If you're like me and you have one of those garden hoses and every time you go to roll it up and it's inverting itself or it's getting all kinked and you just want to throw it down and just get rid of it, yeah, those can be frustrating. These 0Gs are a lifesaver, especially for me. And now we'll go hook into our pass-through storage. So here at our city water connector, we've got one of these 90-degree connectors. I would highly recommend getting one of those because if you hook your hose straight into this is just plastic here and it can pull it back, and over time it can break and cause you some problems. So with this 90-degree, you've already got it in to the city water hookup. You just hook your hose right into the end of it, and then you're not putting that extra strain on the plastic piece. Before we turn our city water on, I would come into your rig, open up a faucet. Here we've got our cold side on. I'm gonna go in the bathroom and open up the hot side. That's going to help purge some air. If you've ever turned your water on and then you come in and turn your faucet on and you just hear all that air just going boom, 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 it's called water hammer. Over time, that can damage your pipes and things like that. So we've opened both faucets. Now we're going to go over here to the water heater and I'll show you what to do there as well. And if you have a tanked water heater, you want to come over here. This is called the pressure and temperature valve, also known as the P&T valve. You want to open it up as well. That way, when you turn the water on, you're going to purge all the air from this tanked water heater and it will fill up completely. And then you'll know it's full once you have water coming out of this. And then once water comes out, you just pop it off. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on. Now we're ready to turn on the city water. All right, so we purged the air from the lines inside the rig. Now we're just waiting for the water to come out of the P&T valve on the water heater. So you may not initially have water coming out of your hot water faucet, reason being because it's filling up the tank, but now we see the tank is full. Just pop that P&T valve off, and you're good to go. We've confirmed water is now coming out of the P&T valve. Our water tank is full. Let's turn on a hot water faucet. We have water coming out. Now we can go on and safely turn on the water heater. You want to wait until you have water in the tank. Reason being, you've got that heating element, and if there's no water in it, you can burn that heating element out real quick. So now we've got it full, we're good to go, and won't take any time to get hot. If you have a tankless water heater, obviously you don't need to fill it up, but you want to have your city water on. Just make sure you go outside, turn the power on from the source at the water heater, and then come inside and make sure the temperature gauge is turned on, which is typically going to be in your bathroom. Okay, you're almost done. Just a few more steps to go. Next, we're going to talk about propane. So we've got our propane regulator here. And Sarah, if you'll come over, you'll see I've got this switch facing to the right. So that's going to mean this side of your propane, this is going to be the tank that is on. So I will turn it completely on, and I'll just leave this propane tank on. That way I'll know when it runs out, I need to come out, flip that switch, and then I'll turn this one on. Because if you turn both on at the same time, you're never going to know when this one runs out and when you're on the other, and then you might run out of propane altogether. So that way, once I run out of one, I know to go ahead and take it and get filled while the other's being used. That way you don't run out of propane.
Okay, now that we have the propane on, I'm going to test and see if we have it actually running through the rig. You always want to take your glass cover off. I know it seems obvious, but still want to say it. Now it typically takes a few seconds for the propane to start running through. I just hold this in on the little fire button. Oh, almost went. The first one does typically take a little time. There we go. That one's good. There. All of them are gonna catch on. Now the oven, I don't normally do this in the beginning, but I can show you. This one always takes a minute. So you're gonna go over, everybody's is probably a little different. We have the Furrion, and so you have to go over to the little flame and push it in, or I do. And then you just look under here. You've got, it's just like on your stovetop, you have the little thing that's gonna light, and you'll see your pilot light up once it comes through, and it takes another second before the flames start coming through underneath your little pan there in the oven. Okay, so you see the little pilot light, then you're gonna turn your dial up for a temperature, and it takes a second, and then it will eventually light. There it goes. Okay, we're good to go. Turn that off. But I promise you, whenever, if I choose to use that on this camping trip, it will probably take me the same amount of time to get it to light. But not the stovetop. Once you light them, they're usually pretty good after that. All right, besides setting up our Starlink and maybe a few other personal things that we like, I think we covered everything. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have any comments or any ideas after you've watched this, just let us know down in the comments. We love to answer your questions and we love to make these videos for you. Thank you.